Hi everyone, good evening. Welcome to NLTI. I am Anish Gupta, the founder of NLTI, and currently in my final year at the National Law School, Bangalore. Today we have a very special guest with us. We have Avilokita, who got an All India rank of 2 in NLSAT last year. That is NLSAT 2025. Sorry. So yesterday I had released a video titled "Are Last 4 months Enough for NLSAT?" in which I had positively answered that question that yes, 4 months are enough with a couple of caveats. And had also mentioned that Avilokita prepared in this duration only, like last 4 months. So that is why we have Avilokita with us today, so that she can shed light on her preparation. How did last 4 months look like for her when she was preparing for NLSAT 2025? So Avilokita, over to you. It would be great if you could just give us a brief about your background. Where do you come from? Where have you done your graduation? And how did you decide that you will appear for NLSAT?
Absolutely. So I did my undergraduation from St. Stephen's College in Delhi University, and my majors were in history and political science. And then for a bit, I was writing content. I was a content writer. I was preparing for other competitive exams also. And yeah, after a couple of years after my graduation, I decided that I should pursue a postgraduate degree. And that is when I got to know about NLSAT. And then I decided that I'll appear for this.
Okay. So when you decided that you'll appear for NLSAT, how late was it or early was it that you actually started preparing for it seriously?
Okay, so I did know about the exam when it was initiated, I think in 2021 or 22, but I think
Yeah.
that it was at a very nascent stage back then, so I wasn't very serious about it. But
Hmm.
then I think a couple of years into competitive exam preparation and writing, I decided that, okay, it's time to pivot. And that is when I seriously decided that maybe law is something that would be beneficial. And
Right.
I think the form was released in December 2024, and that's when I filled it.
Yeah.
Even then, I wasn't very serious about it. Like I have to clear this exam or I have to sit for this. It was just another
Hmm.
exam. But then I think in the middle of January, I thought that if I have filled this form, I need to start preparing current affairs. So I wasn't
Yeah.
very regular with my current affairs before that. I was preparing for exams, but it wasn't very NLSAT oriented. So I went through a
Hmm.
couple of question papers, the sample papers that the university releases, all of that. And accordingly, I started my preparation. It was only later in around early April, late March, when I decided that maybe it's
Hmm.
time to sit for mock tests so that I know where do I actually stand. And that is when I
Yeah.
also bought the NLTI mock test series. And I think those 20-25 days were the most serious days of my preparation before the examination. So that's how it all unfolded.
Okay. So were you also working alongside preparing for NLSAT, or did you like quit your job and seriously started preparing only for NLSAT?
So I was a freelance content writer before that. So I wasn't really bound by. I did not have time constraints, or I wasn't bound by time limitations. So for those 2-3 months, I decided that maybe I should shift my focus to this examination only.
Okay.
And I think that was one particular time when I focused more on the examination, but it wasn't like I had to give up other things because of it. But it was
Hmm.
going along simultaneously.
Okay. So Vilokita, for the next 15 to 20 minutes, consider yourself an NLSAT 2026 aspirant. But
All
now
right.
you know what to do as an aspirant because you've already
Yes.
cracked the exam, that to studying only for the last 4 months and get that to
Correct.
getting a single digit rank, not just any other rank to get into NLS. So now let's
Correct.
go section by section. So what would you do for the English or the RC section, like building your reading speed, building your comprehension skills, getting to know some concepts like main idea, tone, vocabulary, literary devices. So how would you go about RC section?
Okay, so one thing that I also mentioned in my previous interview was that this exam is
Yeah,
very heavily time oriented. If you are able to manage your time
yeah,
well, if you are able to divide your time well, you are literally going to ace this examination. But for time, the most important consideration is your speed. So if you are
yeah.
pretty good at reading stuff and grasping stuff with the same intensity as you're reading it, I think that makes a huge difference. And one thing that I've noticed is the passages are mostly either op-ed passages or editorial passages or maybe ideas exchanged from different newspapers. So it's a
Yeah.
very the articles are very contemporary. They are not something they are not historical, or they are not very static or very academic oriented. They're very contemporary. So I'd say the first thing that I would do for improving my speed is to start reading the newspaper very diligently. I don't think it requires a lot, just two editorial articles or two articles a day. Awesome, perfect,
Hmm.
more than enough. One, it helps you increase your speed, and two, it helps you understand the tonality of the author. So there are times when you will read analytical pieces. There are times when you will read very heavily ideologically oriented pieces. So it's very important to
Hmm.
distinguish the kind of tone that the author is taking, whether it is argumentative or it is doctrinal or it is prescriptive. I think that also makes a huge difference, and all of that comes with practice. So for RC, the
Right.
first thing that I would do is I would start with the newspaper. I would pick up two editorials every single day. Side by side,
Hmm.
I would also use a thesaurus so that I know that, okay, these are the terms. Merely knowing the meaning is not important. Knowing in
Yeah.
what context it has been used is extremely important. So, you know, when you read a particular line, you can grasp the entire context of the sentence. I think that makes a huge
Right.
difference. So, if you're able to understand the main argument of the passage, what is the tone of the passage, and what are the main ideas that has been presented by the author, I think that's more than enough, and that comes with a lot of reading and practice. So I think
Right.
editorials are the way to go.
So we look at the two follow-up questions on that. Firstly, which newspaper
Hmm.
would you recommend? And secondly, so newspapers, reading editorials from newspapers is great for RC as well as CR.
Yes,
So,
yes,
but reading newspaper is equally important for GK also. So, how would you
absolutely.
suggest people go about reading newspaper in a holistic fashion so that they cover GK also from that and RCCR
Hmm.
also from that? In a sense, I'm asking you which areas to specifically focus on,
Focus
like the
on.
national
Yeah.
page, the international page, the sports news.
All right, perfect. So the newspaper is a holy grail for everybody who's preparing for this exam. Like you rightly mentioned, it's very helpful for CR also, for RC also, and for general knowledge also. The
Yeah.
first thing that I would suggest is that people start going through newspaper analysis videos, because these videos help you understand the important things that you need to focus on in any newspaper that you pick up.
Hmm.
It could be the Indian Express, it could be the Hindu, it could be any English newspaper that you've been reading for the past many years. Or if you are starting out, I think the Indian
Hmm.
Express is great because its tone is very lucid, the language is very simple, and I think it's divided very well. So each section has a particular orientation. I think that is fantastic. If you go through the explain sections, it would help you understand and enhance your general knowledge about things. And most of these sections, like I mentioned, like the editorial section, are very contemporary. So they would only talk about things that have been going around in the news. You might have heard it, you might have read about it somewhere in bits and pieces, but this gives you a holistic understanding of the whole thing. So explain section, if you're reading the Indian Express or the Hindu, both of them have this very, very nice, comprehensively um, current affairs oriented sections. I think this section is extremely important for general knowledge. Secondly, the first page of any newspaper is of course extremely important, because it is directly coming from the sources, be it the PMO or be it the ministry that is releasing policies, etc. So it's that page is extremely important, so that you have a rough idea about what is going around. Secondly, the explain section. Thirdly, editorials for your English reading comprehension.
Hmm.
So I think the first thing that you need to focus on is the current headlines that have been going around. All of the explain sections, all of the corresponding editorials follow up from that. So that establishes a flow. What we do not need to focus upon, what we do not need to focus upon are the trivial bits and pieces of, tidbits that come around here and there. That's not very important. That's just a waste of time. Secondly, I would suggest that because the newspaper itself is it's so comprehensive, it's virtually impossible to retain everything that you read. So it's
Hmm.
important that you follow it up either with a monthly affairs compendium, or maybe with daily news wrap ups that most of the coachings provide. So I think that would
Yeah.
also be very helpful. It will help you realize whether you've read the newspaper holistically or completely or not. So the first step is watching newspaper analysis videos. The second step is going in a chronological order, starting with the first page, going to the editorial page, then to the explain section. And the third step is to complete the entirety of your current affairs from newspaper by going through a monthly current affairs magazine or a daily current affairs bulletin. I think
Right.
three of these things chronologically followed Perfect. Very holistic, comprehensive for your CR, RC, and GK. So,
Right. Thank you so much, Avilokita. That was very nicely explained. So now that we've touched on GK, I'd like to probe a bit more on that. So
hmm.
NLSAT is usually known for asking out of the box questions, like not very conventional questions, but questions related to pop culture, books,
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
personality.
Correct.
How does one keep themselves abreast with these happenings that are usually not so visible in the newspaper? Like one might follow Reddit in shorts or Instagram for these
Yes.
questions,
Yes.
but not particularly newspaper.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So how should
Um.
one go about it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I did during the entirety of my preparation was make tables. So I think tables are a great way of having one look at that particular document so that everything is retained well. When you have something in a very tabular, very organized form, you remember where this particular bit of information was. I would highly recommend that people make these tables themselves, or people write these bits and pieces of trivia by themselves, so that once
Hmm.
you read it and then you write it and then you go back to it, it registers in your brain. Otherwise it is haywire. It is somewhere, this author wrote some book but you don't remember the name of the book. So to make it
Yeah.
organized, I think organization in noting it down is also extremely important. So the first thing is making tables, and I think digital tables are fantastic. You can just control F and then find. So I would suggest maybe use an Excel sheet, have a couple of sheets and mark them as books and authors, awards, people in news, or maybe something around important terms in news. Having such folders within one Excel sheet is fantastic. Now, every time you come across a piece of information, a piece of trivia that you know you might not remember otherwise if you do not go back to
Hmm.
it, you just note it down in that particular sheet. So I will share the Excel sheet with you if you want me to.
That would be great.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So I had so the one thing that comes to my mind is people in news. So I had one section which said the name of the person, and the
Hmm.
other section which said why is this person in news. So maybe this is the new president of Ireland, or maybe this is a person who was in news because of his or her writings or opinions, or a
Hmm.
celebrity who received a particular award. This is a fantastic way. This is about organization. But your second question was about the source that one must refer to for such bits and
Exactly.
pieces.
Yeah.
The first thing that always helps is just Googling awards in news. I think awards
Okay.
are a great way for people to realize who were nominated, who won the awards, and what did they win it for. So nominations are also great to understand that, okay, these were the people who were in news, these were the books that were in news. So it's not important that NLSAT directly asks you which person won which award. They might ask you why this
Hmm.
person was in news. So I think that
Yeah.
is helpful. Secondly, like I mentioned, oh my God, I cannot stress enough upon the importance of monthly current affairs magazines, because you yourself manually cannot go through every bit of information that you think is important. I think this is where coachings come in. Like they will
Yeah.
help you navigate through this particular section very well. So I think going through monthly current affairs magazines is fantastic. Make notes from that only. So okay, you can't go through the entire magazine again and again.
Hmm.
Organize it in Excel sheets, organize it in a very tabular, very holistic and very segregated form, so that you know, okay, this person was in this Excel sheet, this person was in the
Hmm.
authors section, this person was in the uh, people in news section. So that is how you can keep a track of trivia. It's a fantastic way. Or you can have sticky notes. So laptops
Hmm.
and digital formats usually have these sticky notes ka app. So you just
Hmm.
download that app and write small bits of information and have it on your screensaver, so that every time you open your laptop, it flashes in front of your eye. Color code it. Say blue is for awards, pink is for people in news, yellow
Hmm.
is for, say, some term that you came across in the news and you thought that it was important. I think that also
Yeah.
helps. I think navigating through your method of recalling is extremely important. And source should be one,
Hmm.
maximum two: newspaper and monthly current affairs magazine. Fantastic. Does
Right.
not require much navigation post that.
Okay. So I think we are done with GK. That was good, solid advice for the GK section. We are also done with RC. Now let's move on
Yeah.
to CR. And CR is also something that troubles a lot of students because
Hmm,
CR
hmm,
mein there are
hmm.
some core concepts like
Yeah.
conclusion, inference, premise,
Yes.
assumption.
Yes.
So
Yes.
Vilokita, you tell me, did you primarily focus on the theory of these questions? Ki, what is the difference
Hmm.
between premise and assumption? How does an
Hmm.
inference differ from from a conclusion. Yeah, you simply went on practicing the questions and then learned or understood the theory simultaneously.
Okay, so that's a very good question because critical reasoning is something which is extremely important. It can make or break your preparation. One
Yeah,
of the most important things to realize is the tone of the question. Most of the times, the question is about the most suitable option. Our focus should be on the word
yeah,
most because everything seems suitable. You would think that, oh,
yeah,
this option also looks like it would. Uh, can you see me?
yeah, yeah, I can see you.
Yeah. So it usually seems like, okay, this option is also fantastic. This option also looks like something that would suit this particular question. But the mind
Yeah,
has to be very calm in such situations. You have to look at the most suitable option. And when
yeah,
you're sitting in the exam, when you're sitting for mocks, you do not remember those theoretical concepts. So this is the premise, this is the argument, this is what strengthens it, this is what weakens it. So I think for
yeah.
me that did not work. Memorizing theory did not work. Practicing helped me a lot. So when you
Hmm.
practice certain number of questions and certain varieties of questions, you realize that, oh, this is the kind of mindset that I need to apply in such questions. So for me, I think one of the most difficult parts of my preparation in critical reasoning was weakening the argument. So
Hmm.
I had to practice a lot
Yeah.
of questions which weakened the argument. For me, strengthening the argument is very simple. Anything that
Hmm.
subscribe to the argument is possibly the answer. But when it
Yeah.
comes to weakening the argument, it is very difficult to realize which of them it makes it the weakest argument. So I think for me that was
Exactly.
a
So
big
the
task.
question stem is
And
like that, which of the following most weakens the argument? Like
yes,
four, three statements will be weakening
yeah,
the argument, but you have to
yeah,
identify which of the one most weakens it. Yeah.
most, yes, yes. And I
Yeah.
think that comes through rigorous practice. So I think one of the great ways of realizing where your strength and weaknesses lie is by practicing
Hmm.
and through by going through
Yeah.
mocks. So step
So,
one for
Avilokita,
critical.
sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yesterday, when we were going through your record, so we saw that you gave a
Mhm.
lot of critical reasoning sectional tests.
Yeah.
So, was that primarily to like improve the weak areas or the areas that were troubling you?
Yes, 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 yes. Because after sitting through a couple of mocks, I realized that this is something that is messing up with my marks and I need to work on it.
Hmm.
Otherwise, my entire like all of my hard work will go into vain. So then I decided that maybe
Yeah.
sectionals, practicing more of such questions would be helpful, and it did help ultimately. This is a
Hmm.
very practice-based exam. So you can memorize GK, you can memorize trivia, but you cannot memorize such things. You only can
Yeah.
cultivate the acumen of how to analyze and answer these questions, and that only comes through practice. So my number one tip would be practice as much as you can from as many sources as you can. And I think now AI is also a great way of asking for complex questions. Also, although it hallucinates a lot, but you
Yeah.
can ask. Yeah, yeah, you can ask it for reframing this question in a tougher form so that you know that, okay, there is a particular way that this question can be formulated in. Am I able to solve this question? So you can work with various difficulties. You can work with various sections that you think are your weak point. Mocks are very important in this and practicing.
So, Vilokita, you stressed a lot on practice. So, can you tell
Yes.
or suggest some sources for practice? One definitely is mock, second is sectional.
Yeah.
Any other
Yes.
source that you particularly refer to for this?
Yes, I think mocks, sectionals, and the sample papers that NLS releases and the
Hmm.
PYQs that NLS releases. These are extremely
Got it.
important, not for analyzing those particular questions, but for understanding the thematic inclination of the paper. Where is
Exactly.
this more inclining towards? Although you cannot really predict how the paper is going to be, but you can
Hmm.
only gauge. So I think for cultivating that mindset, it is very helpful.
Yeah.
So you would know,
And
okay,
Avilokita,
this is the.
going through PYQs will also help you understand the logic of the exam setter. That
Yes,
even though, so
yes,
this has been the trend for last 3 4 years. Even
yes.
though I think answer option A should be the correct answer, according to exam setter, option C is the strongest one or
Yeah, yeah.
the most
Correct,
appropriate one.
correct.
So going through the PYQs and the sample papers also help us understand this. Like you said, the theme around the entire paper.
Ye- Exactly, exactly.
Yeah,
I think the entire examination is just trying to gauge your mindset. How are you
yeah.
thinking? What is your argument formation style? That's about it. It's a very practice-based paper.
Hmm. So, Avilokita, you touched upon argument formation, and I think this is the right point to headway into part B. Again,
Yes.
like the most dreaded part, I'd say for NLSAT aspirants, because a lot of people
Correct.
uh, have a stint with competitive exams which have objective questions like CLAT or any other objective exam. But
Yes.
Part B again
Yes.
is something unique to either judiciary aspirants or UPSC aspirants, and now it is a part of NLSAT.
NLSAT also.
So,
Yes.
what was your very initial strategy towards Part B? Let's say, for
Hmm.
example, when you decided that you will give the paper, this is how I approached Part B, and how it changed over a
Yes.
period of time when you got serious for the paper.
Okay, okay. So Anish, I still remember when I decided to sit for this examination. I think up until last year, the paper used to comprise of 6 analytical questions and 1 essay. And it was only
Yeah.
last year that the questions were reduced to 5 questions and 1 essay. So initially, when I started preparing, I was preparing according to the previous pattern. So I was
Hmm.
very focused on speed. But I think that is where I stumbled a bit. I think any new aspirant who is looking to sit for this examination, I think you must first start with, once again, editorials, because they will help you formulate your arguments, formulate your sentences better. But secondly, and more importantly, I think the focus should be on writing well. And thirdly, structuring your answer well is very, very important. But
Hmm.
the first thing that you actually need to do is read the question very well, understand where you stand on this particular issue,
Hmm.
because the examiner is only trying to understand how do you substantiate your stand. So when you read the question, the first and foremost consideration is to understand whether you stand, because there is no right or wrong answer in law. This is what we've been learning for the past 2 trimesters also. There's
Yeah.
no right or wrong answer, it's just how you present it. So the first thing is read the question, understand your stand. Secondly, I'd say just have a rough structure in your mind that this is how you're going to go about it. Now, the trickier part with NLSAT is, one, time, of course, two, space constraint. They will only give you a limited amount of space to fit in your answer. You can't write beyond that.
Yeah.
And it is virtually impossible to write beyond that. So I would say practicing putting forward your views in very precise terms is very important. How do you condense your arguments and make it to the point is extremely important. So for me, I struggle with this a lot because I have a habit of writing a lot. So I write a lot. I
Hmm.
just keep on writing. I had to really restrict myself. I had to inculcate that habit of writing very precisely. So precise argument formation, very, very
Hmm.
important. Structure in the arguments, extremely important. And understanding where you stand in the argument, extremely important.
Hmm.
And all of this comes through practice only. So for part B also, the most important consideration is going through a variety of questions and writing answers for those questions. Part B is fully practice based. You can't have a recall based answer, you can't
Yeah.
have a memory based answer. It's all upon your writing skills.
So we look at the two questions on this, and this is these are one of the most frequently asked questions.
Hmm.
Firstly, how important are facts, like having
Hmm.
knowledge of facts around a particular question for a
Hmm.
part B question? For example, let me give
Hmm.
you an example of, let's say, the three language policy. Even though
Yeah.
I might have views on the three language policy, I might
Yes.
not know which states are currently undergoing or having like a dispute around the three language policy, or which leader has said what particular thing. So, are these
Correct.
facts important to substantiate my argument? And secondly, for let's say a part B question, how important is legal jargon? So everyone says that prior knowledge of law is not important, but we
Yeah.
also suggest that if you have some knowledge like some basic principles, duty of care, proportionality,
Yeah. Yeah.
reasonableness,
Mm-hmm.
arbitrariness, it
Mm-hmm.
helps
Mm-hmm.
and gets you some brownie points.
Yeah.
So what is your take on these two things, facts and legal
Okay.
jargon?
Absolutely. So for essay, I think facts are extremely important, because
Hmm.
when you are right, even when you are putting forward your view on the three language policy, you need to substantiate with a solid, very data backed, or maybe a very statement based fact,
Hmm.
so that the examiner knows that you know something about this, but this is a
Hmm.
derivative of some authentic source. So it's very important to make the examiner realize your credibility. Where are you coming from? So I think having a hold on the key issues that have been going on around and things that might be asked as essay questions is extremely important. And even more important than that is having a few data sets and having a few facts
Hmm.
on your fingertips. What this will do is, when you sit for the examination and you might have even if you might have glossed over one of those topics, you will have that
Hmm.
confidence that okay, when I sit for this particular answer, I will have some flow in my mind because you've already seen it
Yeah.
somewhere. So I think having a few data sets from authentic sources, the UN or the government or the ministry or
Hmm.
the body who is releasing data sets, it's extremely important so that the examiner knows that you are coming from a source of credibility. One.
Hmm.
Two, when you have a few data sets on your hand, you're very confident also that even if I am not able to write down in very language oriented terms, I might be able
Hmm.
to structure my answer better because I have a few data sets, I have a few facts, maybe I can work around these. So it also instills a sense of confidence. I will again reiterate that I started from the essay question because I knew that this carried more marks than the analytical questions.
Hmm.
So I started with that, and I also started with that because I had an idea about what am I going to attempt, because I had already
Hmm.
practiced this during my mocks. So again,
Which,
mocks come in here.
Avilokita, sorry to interrupt you. Which question
Mhm.
did you attempt as your essay
I
in NLSAT
attempted
25?
the I attempted the banning social media
Social
for
media.
teenagers.
For,
Yeah,
yeah,
social media
okay.
question. It's
So,
also very
if you
hmm,
could give some, like, a couple of examples to the people watching, that what data
yeah.
sets did you include in this essay?
Hmm, hmm. Okay,
If you
so
remember
I remember.
anything at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that during one of my mocks, something around this question was a part
Yeah,
of
very
my
similar
mock
question
paper.
was given in one of
Yeah,
the
very
NLTI
similar
mocks.
question.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So I remember attempting that question very well. And during the preparation for that question also, I had this data set about the International Telecommunication Union, which had released a data set on how many underage children are accessing social media and how many countries have already taken steps to
Hmm.
mitigate this particular problem. I had this particular data set in mind. The other fact that I had in mind was the number of countries who do not allow social media for children at all, and these policies are
Hmm.
named very differently in each of these countries. So, South Korea has a similar policy. Australia has a similar policy. Excuse me, just a second.
Yeah.
So these were a few countries that had already worked on these provisions. So I think these were the two things that really strengthened my essay. I do not remember other things that I included in this, but these were the two things
Hmm.
that I can recall immediately at the top of my mind. So these were a few things that I included.
Hmm.
For analytical questions, although you do not require any data or any facts, it's just your arguments. But
Yeah.
like you mentioned, legal jargon is not necessary. Having a hold of key legal terms is good, encouraged. It's not necessary, but
Hmm.
encouraged. Why? I would say that these terms help you condense your arguments better. So
Yeah.
instead of going on and explaining negligence in English terms, it's better to use a legal term, negligence. Or when you have to
Hmm.
explain that, oh, this person should have taken some care, but what is that care? That's reasonable care. Or this
Hmm.
person should have done a bit of, they should have played their part of the responsibility. You use a better term for it, due diligence. So when you use
Yeah.
like precise terms, I think that impresses the examiner well. Although this is not necessary, like I mentioned, it is a good way to make them realize that, oh, you have some argument formation capabilities. So I
Hmm.
think having idea of a few terms is good enough. You do not need to know like very technical terms. This will help you just organize your answer better, like negligence, due diligence, reasonable
Yeah.
care, reasonable person. That's about it.
Avilokita, I think this is the best take I've heard till date on how to use legal jargon or whether you need to use legal jargon. I'm not even kidding. Like, this is actually one of the best things I've heard. So,
Thank you.
Avilokita, could you also tell me about improving your Part B and also
Hmm.
something about the IRAC method? Did you follow the IRAC method? If not, which other method did you follow?
Huh.
And how did you go about improving your Part B answers? Like, I'm not sure if you got a lot of Part B scripts checked from the NLTI mentors, but if not, how did you go about improving your score?
Okay. I did not follow the IRAC method primarily because I wasn't very sure about the exact rule that would apply in every single question. Had I followed this, I
Okay.
would have to follow it for all my answers for maintaining consistency. So I
Hmm.
just went about writing like you would write a normal answer, just forming your
Okay.
arguments and writing them down. I think when I initially started writing, most of my writing style was very paragraph oriented. I wasn't a very to the point person. So I was beating around the bush. That is what I realized was eating up a lot of
Hmm.
my time. So just to ensure that I am finishing within the limited amount of time and the number of pages, I had to start writing very precisely. So with a few mocks, within the first few mocks only, I realized that this is my problem. And I think I got a lot of my answer scripts corrected by NLTI because those were the primary mocks that I relied on. I think
Yeah.
one of the most important feedbacks that I always kept on receiving was to condense your arguments, write it down in a point-wise format. So I did not follow the IRAC method, but a point-wise formulation of my arguments. Like in the beginning, I would write that this is what I think about this particular issue, and these are the reasons why. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Yeah.
done, and conclusion. So very well
Any counter
structured,
rebuttals
very
do you
precise.
give?
No, 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 no. In none of the
Okay.
questions. I took a very clear stand and I substantiated it. That's about it.
All right. So there's one question in the comment chat box, and others also. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat box. So, Avilokita, what is one thing that every aspirant should do who's just starting right now for Part B? I know that you've mentioned for a fact that rely on editorials. That is your
Hmm.
primary source of information and arguments for Part B. Other than editorials, what is one particular thing that everyone should do before they start their Part B?
Um, it's a very good question. I think apart from editorials, writing, going with the flow is very, very important. See, a lot of times we think that we are not good at this particular thing, so we should not start. We will start when we will be good at it. But the irony is, you get good at it once you start doing it. So I would suggest
Yeah.
just sit down with a pen and paper, make a lot of mistakes, write 4 pages of that answer, come down to your vocabulary, work on it, rewrite that answer again. I think just sitting down with a pen and a paper is extremely important. Slowly build on it. One day you start working on the time that you're taking. Second day you start working on the vocabulary that you're using. Third day you limit the number of words that you're using in a particular sentence to express your arguments. So uh, it's a very procedural way of going about things. You can't expect yourself to be completely comfortable with it in the first go. You have to take the first step and then build on it slowly. And the most important thing when you sit for this exam, be it part A, part B, or essay, is patience. Patience
Yeah.
and the faith that it will get better. And with practice, you will get better. Because if you practice, even if you don't desire the result, it will come, because this is what practice does to you. It makes you better. So I
Yeah.
think just sit with pen and paper, don't think about it a lot, follow one structure that you've formed in your mind, take as much time, take as many pages, write as many points as you can, and then start making it a better answer. Get it corrected, rectify your mistakes. It's all a very, very lengthy, very time taking, but very rewarding process.
Right. Avilokita, I think we are done with both the parts, and I think we can take up some questions now that are there in the
Yes.
chat box. So one student has asked, what is the ideal timing for Part A and Part B, and specifically the essay component? So, like the ideal time distribution.
Okay. Um, at this point, I don't really remember what my time distribution was, but I do remember that on the exam day, I did finish my part in 50 minutes because the paper was very
Yeah.
current affairs oriented. So there were a lot of one-liner questions, so it did not take a lot of
Mm-hmm.
my time. But I would suggest do not divide it 50-50, because you know that writing is going to take far longer than reading and answering. So
Yeah.
practice and realize where your strength lies. For me, that was essay. So I started with my essay because I was
Mm.
comfortable with maybe speeding up here a bit in the other part B questions. But for me, essay was extremely important. So that was one
Yeah.
thing that I focused on. So I think time division is very personal. It is extremely dependent on your personal capabilities and how you solve the paper. There cannot
Mm.
be one way to go about it. It will come with practice. But I am very sure that 50-50 is not the way to go about it. So you have to realize
Yeah.
where your strength lies and then work on it.
Avilokita, one clarification. Did you start your entire paper with your essay or just the Part B with your essay? Like,
Just the part B.
you
Just the part B.
attempted Part A first, no?
Yeah. I did my part A
Okay.
and then I went to part B, and then in part B I started with my essay question and then went about with the analytical questions.
Got it. There's one more question. Can you tell us some resources you use to stay updated with current affairs and gain more factual knowledge to help with Part B?
Yes. Like I mentioned, Indian Express, monthly current affairs magazine. I have no words to signify the importance of monthly compendiums. If you are not a monthly person, if you think that it gets too overwhelming, going through daily bulletins is a great way to go about things. And watching newspaper analysis videos. Any or all of these are equally helpful.
Got it. And also, a lot of people who have joined us right now and don't know, we had covered this last year, but last year 28 questions came from GK, around out
Yes.
of which total 20 to 22 were covered in the NLTI GK compendium.
Yeah.
So we had received the same feedback from everyone that I knew this question because it was covered in the NLTI GK compendium.
Yes.
So I'm not promoting my compendium, but if you follow any compendium, that would be equally useful for NLSAT. So alongside newspaper, compendium should be your primary or the secondary source to cover GK.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Uh, how can a legal answer be good without considering the opposite side, as you said you did?
I think the questions are very straightforward and they will ask you what
Hmm.
you think about it. So if you write both points of view, you're not exactly impressing the examiner by saying that, oh, I can think from both points of view. I think for me, I thought a good approach or the better approach was probably sticking to one argument and then strengthening it as much as I can. So instead of devoting 50% of my energy here and here, I devoted 100% of my energy and all my argument formation capabilities to one set of answers. I think that worked for me, but I don't think
Hmm.
there's a strict structure that NLS asks you to follow. If you think that
Yeah.
answering both of the sides is comfortable or is important for you, you can go ahead and do that. I don't think there's any like constraint with regards to that.
Yeah. Did you follow any time frame or plan that by February you should be done with this much practice or syllabus, or did you just go with the flow?
I wouldn't say I went with the flow, and I also wouldn't say that I planned that this is like my cutoff time. I would say that my whole idea was that in the last month, during the last 20-25 days, I only have to solve mocks. Because this is a practice based paper, there is virtually no syllabus that you can get done with. It's only
Yeah.
GK, and GK also you have to follow till the last day of the examination. So it's an ongoing process. So I did not have any cutoff time or a particular month that I needed to get done with a particular part of the paper. I just started preparing and started building on all my answers and all of the components of the paper one by one simultaneously. Because it's a practice based paper. So it continues till the exam date also.
Yeah.
So no such hard and
Avilokita,
fast rules.
yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So when you started giving your mocks, were you able to
Hmm.
finish all your Part B answers like from the very first mock itself, or it came slowly?
It came slowly. Like I mentioned, it's a process. It's
Hmm.
a very long, drawn, and daunting process. Also, at times you feel that, oh, why are you sitting for this examination? There are answers that will make you
Hmm.
feel that, oh my God, where do I stand on this? How do I substantiate this? But it only gets better with practice. Initially, I remember I only used to answer 4 questions. Even with a lot of effort, I wouldn't be able to reach up to the fifth question. So imagine, fifth
Hmm.
question is left, essay is left, two of
Essay
the
is
very
left.
important parts of the essay is left. So I
Yeah.
was very heartbroken in the beginning, but I think with practice, like I said, I used to write long answers and I shortened it, then I made my arguments better within those shortened answers, then I substantiated
Hmm.
it with a few legal terms. It's a process, so it'll get better.
Yeah. Avilokita, how were your mocks spaced out? As in, how many days did you give yourself in between mocks to improve your score? I think this is a question that I can also answer since I saw your trajectory yesterday. I think you gave a mock every single day, no? In the last
Yeah.
20-21 days.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Because, like I mentioned, for me, I think mocks became a very important part of my examination only in the later part of my preparation. Because earlier, I
Hmm.
wasn't very focused on giving mocks. I was just reading, I was just collecting knowledge. But it was only later on that I realized that mocks are extremely important. So that I realized that, okay, this
Hmm.
is where I need to work on. So, in the last 3 weeks of the preparation, I gave a mock every single day because NLTI mocks have an all India ranking system. I realized that,
Hmm.
okay, every day, whether I'm improving or not, if I need to work on a particular section or not, because it's also sectional. So you have a sectional
Yeah.
analysis also, you have a holistic analysis also, you have a ranking system also. So it was only during the last phase of my preparation that I gave a mock every single day. Really
But
helped.
Avilok, let's go back to the first thing that has told you that consider yourself a hypothetical NLSAT 26 aspirant. So
Yeah.
now, if you let's say given a couple of mocks already, how would you now plan your next 4 months so that you can adequately space out your mocks, having some room for improvement, and to accommodate the feedback that you're getting for your Part B from NLTI mentors?
Okay. I'd say
Yeah.
that studying every day is extremely important. How you structure your months is what will make all of the difference. So, considering the fact that you're studying every single day, I think giving 2 to 3 mocks a week in the first few months, say about in January or February, works really well. Maybe
Hmm.
from March onwards, because the examination is in the later part of April. I think March and April, then you can go ahead with 4 mocks a week, or maybe 3 to 4 mocks a week, so that in the first few months only you can analyze and realize that these are the few parts of the paper that you need to work on. And when you attempt mocks more frequently, you tend to understand where you actually stand. So, the more frequently you are giving your mocks, the more frequently you will understand whether you are improving or not, whether you are stagnant, or there's a particular
Hmm.
section which is holding you back. So, in the first few months, I think 2 to 3 times a week, perfect. In the later part of your preparation, giving 4 mocks a week, awesome. Or maybe in the
Yeah.
last 10 days, giving a mock every single day works really well, because you're virtually done with most of the syllabus. You just have to keep up with general knowledge and then work towards the examination.
I think Avilokita, you have put me in a bit of trouble now because these people will come to me and ask me to increase the number of mocks because this is not how many
You
mocks we are
should.
providing.
Your mocks are very helpful. You should.
Yeah, we'll definitely. But from last year, we have increased the number of mocks. But yeah, let me plan something out to increase even more. Uh,
Absolutely.
so I think Avilokita, that's it from this session. Thank you so much, man. This was really helpful, and it has opened my eyes also on a couple of suggestions that I should give to people who ask me. But yeah, Avilokita, again, thank you so much. It really means a lot that you have agreed for this session, especially on a holiday weekend. And we look forward to having you a couple more times on our channel before the exam comes for this year.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Everyone who's watching, we hope you found this session useful. Please let us know in the comment section if you would want us to bring in somebody else or bring in a new perspective on the same last 4 month strategy. We'd be happy to do that. And yeah, thank you so much everyone for joining in. Keep supporting us. Do refer NLTI to your fellow aspirants or peers who might ask for recommendations. And again, thank you and have a good holiday weekend. Thank you, Avilokita. See you.
Thank you. Thank you.